Hello, welcome to Petrol Media. Sorry it's been so long since I've posted videos. It's been really busy with the family and we're trying to get everything back on schedule. You know, things happen when you have so many kids and, you know, you're just trying to balance it all. It can take time to get everything back into like a rhythm that makes sense. So it is what it is. That being said, what are we talking about today? Well, as I've started to get back into music production, I've been looking for things that are, I guess you could say, familiar. And when I started doing production, I started on this device called an MPC 2000 XL. 2000 XL is an amazing MIDI drum machine. It's a sampler and its sequencing is amazing. I don't think I've made a bad beat on it, as crazy as that sounds to say. But as I got older, and of course everybody transitions to software, I started using more software solutions. And I wasn't a huge fan of the software solutions. The reason being is that creativity is built in constraints. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have a sampler and all you can use is the sounds that you put in it, you're limited to what you can work with, which forces you to actually really try your best to make sure you're making something amazing. Now, some people will make junk. You know, I've made junk too. I'm not gonna sit here and say I've never made junk. But the beautiful thing about having those constraints is that you're forced to really think through what you're doing when you're doing it. With software, a lot of times what happens is you have so many options and you then start getting lost in the options. And then manufacturers, by no fault of their own, trying to be unique, they make a lot of their instruments complicated. And then now you're trying to learn this instrument. Now you're spending more time learning the tools rather than using the tools. When you have limited resources, a lot of times that doesn't happen. You just focus on using the tools. So using an MPC and one or two keyboards, I made some amazing records. The record we made, I co-produced with Darren Joseph, There Go the Whistle Song, was only four sounds. A lot of people, you know, I've listened to what people have said about how the production was made, which is laughable considering they weren't in the studio with us. There was just four sounds. You know, the whistle, the 808, the snare, which was basically Darren's voice, and I think there was a hi-hat. No, there was like a swooshing sound that we used. That was it. It was like four sounds for the whole entire beat. You don't need a lot to make an amazing instrumental. You just need to understand what you're working with. And that's why I went out and bought a new to me MPC. What did I buy? Well, I decided I didn't want to go all the way back to the 2000 XL. Not because I didn't think the 2000 XL was amazing, but because the 2000 XL, although I love the way it works, has some limitations I didn't want to deal with at this point. Mainly the fact that you have to load everything from scratch, completely from scratch, every single time. That takes a bit of time. And then, of course, transferring the audio out of the machine requires you to completely plug it up to an input source into your computer, an audio interface of some sort. So I am building out my studio. I've been taking my time. This time around, it's still set up in the garage and I'm just like getting it all sorted out. But what I decided to do was not buy that MPC, but buy this MPC. This is the MPC 5000. I haven't had one of these before. Again, like I said, I got used to using the 2000 XL. And the reason I chose the 5000, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, has the ability to use almost any MPC's sequencing files. What does that mean? I can load the 2000 XL, the 2500, the 1000, and the 4000's files on here, and it will work, and I shouldn't have any problems. That was a huge benefit for me because I'm not a person who's used the 4000 before, so that's not a super critical thing for me. I was 2000 XL, I had a 1000. The 1000 is the mini version of 2500. The software in here is the full version that's slightly above the 2500. I know the OS is slightly different, mainly because they were trying not to allow the creator of JJOS to edit this file and create their own version of the software. So there is a version of the OS from JJOS that works for the 1000 and 2500, and arguably it's a better software than the original. However, I've never really had a problem with any of the original softwares for the MPCs. And at some point, I might end up buying either the 1000 or the 2500 for travel purpose, probably the 1000, because it's a really good MPC anyway. This is great just as a whole. And the beautiful thing about this one, why I really chose this, was not only the layout of the pads and the setup of it, but also it had 12 Q-Link options on the left side, so I can play around with these parameters with the sequencer. It also has a synthesizer built in that I can use with the MPC directly. And the other thing was that it has hard drive recording. I can record up to 8 tracks of audio in 24-bit 96K. The reason why that's important is because currently I'm still putting the studio together. I've figured out everything I need except for the audio cards for my Midas console. So I haven't moved forward with the Midas console situation. I still need to get these files into the software to do mixing and mastering. On the back of the MPC, you have the record ins, you can do micro line, you have turntable ins, which I don't really have a turntable at the moment, so that's fine. I have SPDIF out and in. I also have ADAT out, which is beautiful. You know, I can go direct light pipe 8 channels directly into an interface, which I might actually consider doing that as well, because the jury's out on whether I'm going to actually use the interfaces that I have right now, because I'm still having issues trying to get them to connect. I have stereo outs and 8 assignable outputs, as well as the ability to control 4 external audio sources, whether they're racks or keyboards, and 2 MIDI ins, and of course USB to transfer data back and forth. Now, these units have been put down for a lot of different reasons, mainly because of the argument that Just Blaze made, and I think there was one other producer who made, complaining, saying that it wasn't better than the 4000. Everything is relative. I mean, I was never a huge fan of the 4000. I knew what the 4000 could do. I knew how powerful it was, but I personally didn't like it. I actually liked the 2000 XL, its sequencer, how it behaves, and as a secondary, I had the 1000. And the 1000 is more in line with the way this one functions, and I liked it, so I have no issues with this one. I actually tried this out a little bit at home. This particular unit has one problem, which every single one of these 5000s does have, and it is the most annoying problem with the MPC 5000, and the only thing I would say is a huge problem for anybody who's really trying to use this. This thing has a bad power supply. The power supply lives on this side. It has a tiny fan, and that fan is not very powerful, and mine I didn't realize was blown. So the other day when I was doing a data transfer from my computer to it died. And unfortunately, this unit is not working. I did buy it from Guitar Center just a few days ago, so I'm actually able to return it used to get another one in a couple of days, which is great. But the thing that you have to worry about is that power supply. It is literally a problem, mainly because the components weren't designed well, or I shouldn't say that, but mainly because the components chosen weren't the right components. That's what I feel. It puts out a 3.3 volt, 5 volt, 12 volt, and 16 volt output. The monitor uses 16 volts. The analog circuitry, I believe, uses 12 volts. And then there's 2 other things that use 3 volts and 5 volts. So that throws everything out of whack. And I think that's part of the problem with this. And the other side of the issue is that Akai didn't sell a lot of these. They did share the power supply with an Alesis Fusion keyboard But again, that didn't sell a lot as well. So there's not a lot of people who have the power supply for this. I actually found somebody. I'm not saying to anybody where I found it just yet, because I still need to buy a second one for myself so that I have a spare. And after I buy mine and I tell you, then I'll let you know where I got it from. But in the meantime, I'm going to replace this unit. Again, it's when you buy used, especially something for the price point this is at, for me, it was really important that I bought it from somewhere like Guitar Center, because I didn't want to have to think about it. You know what I mean? I have 45 days to return it, so I'm returning it within less than a week of owning it. And they'll find me another one real quick, because they have a couple of them, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab another one. But now that I know about the power supply problem, I'm going to go ahead and buy a spare. And I think I'm going to build a backup one, because the next unit I buy, I'm going to keep it. And I'm looking forward to having fun with it. Now, why am I going back to hardware and when I already have software that can do this? Like, my favorite software for creating right now is Serato Studio, which I'm probably going to still use Serato Studio with this. And I'll show you how that works a little bit later on. But the reason why is because I know how fast I work with hardware. I know how much I love just to be tactile and not think. I don't like the idea of necessarily opening up a software and finding 5 million patches of audio for me to decide on which one that I want to use. Again, this is not a negative. It's more so about sorting your resources. When you start to produce music, you want to know exactly where everything is, what you're using, your go-tos. This is why people like Timbaland back in the day would, like, if you notice, you listen to his records, you hear like 8 or 9 records, same drum sounds. Or Lil Jon, same thing. Almost all of his entire catalog was like the same drum sounds. You want to know what your go-tos are. The Neptunes did that for years. How many hit records did they use the same snare, the same congos, the same kick? You find your favorites and you just grind through and make a bunch of stuff. When you have software, you can totally do that. But then you start saying, but look at that thing over there. And look at that over there. And then you just kind of get a little distracted. And at least that's my problem. I thrive in conformity. So it's great for me to have, limited choices to work with. And we'll do a little bit more talking about this a little later. I don't want this vlog to get too long. But if you like what I've been talking about, like, share, and subscribe. And I can't wait to catch up with you guys and show you more. I am also still flying the drones. I've just been so busy with family stuff and getting everything situated. It's just been a lot. But we're getting there. We're getting there. And you guys will start seeing more content from the drone stuff, more content from music production. I can't wait to show you a ton of what the MPC 5000 can do, because it's one of the most slept on devices in music production history. Like, share, and subscribe. See you guys later.